Many people out there who are studying openings instead of learning how to win the game. In other words, if you are studying the London or any opening variation, how much will that really reward you toward winning a game versus learning specific strategic methods, maneuvers, plays, or honing your endgame skills toward pocketing further points and thereby gaining rating points?
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, grasshoppers. We are going to head over to our rapid and classical team. If you are a member of the dojo, though, it also appears over here. You'll see our rapid arena for world's third world champion, Jose Capablanca, and you'll see the Blitz. It does not hurt to train every day in whatever time control you can manage. It spurs the imagination. It tests your limits. It reminds you of lines you need to get playing. For example, I remember what I wanted to study is black here, and I forgot to do it when I was off stream. So if I keep this up, maybe today will be the day. So you want to play the modern defense, eh? So you want to play the modern. Maybe, just maybe, we'll play the modern properly. Do I want to play the modern? I don't think it can be saved here. But let's see. Let's play the Reti. That's interesting. He gave up his D pawn for a B pawn? That's so unusual. Quite crazy. Let's just keep piling it on. Let's see what we can do.
How's it going?
Good morning. How are you? That must be Jerry Goose. Now, I had planned on doing something. How can I expect it to be?
Doing all right.
So my original plan was to play knight to d4 here. But I don't think I would mind taking the bishop. We'll just have to keep it up now. So let's see what we can do. So let's see, is the e4 pawn hanging here? All right, now we're getting somewhere. Now they are getting somewhere, Bobby. Please don't call me Bobby. Let's just do this. Let's get the bishop pair. And then we'll hit him here. Or will we now? Doesn't. I need to remaneuver a knight to e5. How about that? Or should I just get castled? Moment of truth. It was just too fascinating to pass up this entire sequence on the queen side. Very creative maneuvers. It helps play different openings every now and then.
This is the most check perk Eve ever seen.
Most check perk you've ever seen? Hard to believe. That is hard to believe. Should we dive in some more? Or should we not? Bishop c2, rook back. Yeah, let's just keep the balance. He hasn't yet made a mistake, it seems now. So, is he really going to do it? We'll lock down on this square since nothing goes to d5. Oh, but I might get skewered. Maybe I'm not getting skewered. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe, maybe not. All right, so takes, or just plain old queen a4. That's all right. We're going to keep his pawns fixed on the color of his bishop. That way we can enter this endgame. Wow, did not expect that. Let's do it. And now we've got this priceless I want to do it, yes. Interesting. Interesting now. Is that true? Can I do it this way? Outlasted him. just so. I think the last song that I had heard has caught me by the ear. We must have. So my daughter is in the next room, and she told me one morning, "Dad, do you know that you sing on stream?" And I said, "Yes, sometimes." And she goes, "Well, stop."
Okay, I got my food, and hopefully you'll get a game or two in LOL.
That's good. That's ideally the best. Ideally 2, possibly 3. Not too many games that you don't have any time to study. Let's see what's happening here. The modder? Yeah, let's do that. We're working on the modern. And we have Ron Hay, the Beast of Sweden, Pegasus Sway. All right. Oh no, Ron. Oh, Rod, that could well be our shortest loss ever. I hallucinated that one. So bad it makes me cry. Cry to the heavens. Let's practice till it's perfect. Lana. Lana.
Why?
Why? Thank you, Ron. I needed that, sir. I really did. I needed that. Justine Tarkut. Now, is Justine Tarkut on TV? Yeah. I am getting MD Night Zero did check in the other day. And it was quite amazing. Interesting.
Pegasus SWE said, I think F Hobo plays better nowadays.
I'm happy to hear that, actually. That is great to hear. Let's see what we're getting. All right, moment of truth. Wait just a moment here. Wait just one moment. So do we play e5? It seems. I think we can. Just now it seems. just to keep him busy at these. I told myself I'd go for it. So bishop to b4. Well, I think this is a little more threatening. That way, we can decide on one thing or another. Really? Let's keep it up now. Can I do that thing? Chess. So is it worth it now? I really don't think so. But it's true. I guess you always have that. So f5. F takes e4. Nope. I do not have it. Let's see how he recaptures this way. All right, we'll see. Well, that was interesting. I thought he was going to take my pawn just then. So he could have taken it right away. Well, it's gotten more interesting. It did get more interesting. 2 exchanges up. That was interesting. We'll offer him some peas. He didn't see it again. That's interesting that he did not see it again. But we're not going to let him play to take it again.
Four.
Just what I needed. Oh no, he fell for it.
Five.
Well, he...
Four.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. One more time. Ron definitely flattened me. There's no doubt about it that Ron flattened me. But I somehow managed to hang on to a certain amount of respectability. Frederick has gotten better. Did he get him? Did Frederick get him? Not quite. Not quite. For a moment, I thought that he got him. By the way, Jose Raul Capablanca is easily one of the first world champions anyone could study. It's a toss-up to me whether you follow Capablanca or Lasker, but I think Capablanca's style is completely understandable, and it definitely was the first world champion that Bobby Fischer studied, based on the influence in his style. For Kasparov, I believe that the first world champion that he studied was either Alekhine or Lasker. More than likely, it was Alekhine. And the first world champion that Carlsen studied was Lasker. You can see deeply into their soul. Deeply, deeply into their soul. Now, it is getting very hot in the tie breaks, so we do have to try to head over. Let's see what they have me down as streaming here for a moment. Do they have me on YouTube? They do have me on YouTube. Let's try to fix that as we review Ron's games here. We don't want to do it that way. Ron's game versus Folberg. How about that? And I'm going to just put it on a little bit of a fast play. While we're at it, I'm going to bring up YouTube so we have a standard pseudo terrace defense gone wrong with colors reversed. Folberg fighting back. If you've not yet subscribed on YouTube, please do. Thank you so much. I know how to get to my So let's just see what happens. Once you've gone through a game completely, only then can you go back and see what's up. Let's see what's up. So a standard c3 Sicilian. Folberg was a little slow on the draw with knight c6, but he does fight back in the center. And this does make it a little bit of that, a flavor of that gambit. With d5 and c5 against d4, for example. Now, personally, in this position, I also like the lines where we sack the pawn after queen takes d4. Knight c3, queen takes d4, and then we just keep on developing. Bishop to d3, queen takes d1, rook takes d1. I don't know why we wouldn't want to get all of that activity, but it could cause trouble.
Folberg said, "I'm here."
Very good. So, for example, if we go in this direction, there are quite a number of traps here. If Ron is not paying attention, because already you are winning. And it's not the rook that you are after, even though you're getting the rook, because he has to stop mate. So personally, I would just sacrifice the pawn for activity like in the terrace. And this is a Alexa turn-on dojo. Another very interesting point. Sometimes you can sacrifice squares. Basically, you give up square control, right? We sacrifice squares. So you should think of pawns exactly the same way. If you are giving up square control to a certain,
Anonymous
for a certain reason.
Said,
Ron is white, no.
Oh, yes, Ron is white. Ron, what are you doing? Thank you, Sloth Bear Anonymous. Thank you, you are serious. Yeah. So actually, black has it now. What is the next move you should play? You should keep going in this particular line with e5. So this is a very tricky and tedious line. Let's go back in time.
LOL.
But yeah, you can definitely do that. You're basically playing and you've transposed into the d5 line. I'm trying to remember if there is some other way of taking advantage of this.
"Well, he plays better now, only endgame left."
Oh, he does play better now. So in this particular instance, it all works out just in time for Christmas. So I feel like something's wrong with this picture, right? If knight c3, bishop, and this is the same type of idea, knight c3, bishop takes f3, Knight takes d5, bishop takes d1. Knight takes c7, knight to c7 check. You can actually see this line over here now that I looked over at it.
Faubourg said. Thanks.
But if we don't play knight c3, we sort of give it up. No worries. So in this particular position, I think that it's either queen b3 or d5. Personally, I kind of like the pressure that you get with d5. Yes, it does involve some risk, but I think we can just castle and play queen b3. Or can we play queen to b3 now? We can play queen to b3 now. It looks as though we're losing a pawn, but it's not so clear at all. And once again, the second verse is the same as the first. Knight d2, king to d1. You can see it all on the big screen. To d7 and bishop d2.
Said. One day we'll have beat us, John.
Yes, he will beat us. He will beat us.
SWE said. One day he will beat us, John.
Maybe not on a regular basis. Hold on, I just wanted to see. He was right behind me. Unfortunately, this just seems too slow. You have to follow up on your bishop. So I often tell students that if you put your bishop out here to attack a knight, and your opponent attacks you, you have more or less committed to a plan 75% of the way, 3/4 of the way toward taking that knight. And you don't have much of a choice. And in this position, you can hold the center just right. We'll see. We'll see. But yeah, we're losing time. We're losing time in this position. So queen a4. Anyway. Yeah, when you move backwards, you're losing time and you're giving up space. I believe Ron may have had d5 right away. There are no squares in the center so easily. And the idea of d5, of course, is the same that occurs after g6 here. And this is the theme we missed earlier, trying to outpost a knight. If you look at my game against You Are Awesome, I would factor in the bishop pair, but it is relative in time. Let's just see what that assessment was. Basically, there is a great book written by a friend of mine, Steve Meyer. He wrote it as a college mathematics, as a PhD thesis. I'm not sure what subject he graduated in, but Steve Meyer wrote Bishop versus Knight, the Verdict. Bishop versus Knight, the Verdict. And he talks about the gains in time in the opening versus in the capturing of the knight versus the long-term deficit of the opponent having the two bishops. And he gives a number of examples, he gives all the classic examples like Steinitz. Alexa, turn on Dojo. Tired of sitting in the darkness. He talks about all the classic examples, Steinitz versus Rosenthal, I think, is one of them, and so forth. And yes, I guess now that I look up here, I can see that the computer might agree with me, but it's a feel thing, really. It's a feel thing. You are going to have to get into positions. You can't be petrified about an isolated pawn, for example. You can't get petrified about not having the bishop pair. You do have to respect it, and you do have to plan to work around it. So it's a tough call. It's one greatly led, by personal preference. Greatly led by personal preference. And in this particular example, Ron has managed to push around Black's pieces, and I think I would have rather had taken that pawn, played e6, bishop e7, and castles at this point. Right? The gain of time versus having a knight on d4. So then, I'm not sure if Sloth Bear Anonymous has heard me say this in the past, but the value of the bishop, no matter where it is on the board, pretty much remains a bishop. On the log diagonal, it can have greater value. But the value of a knight on the third rank is just a knight. And the value of a knight on the fourth rank, now this is a bishop. White now has 3 bishops. And a knight, if we could outpost this knight on the fifth rank, right? If we could outpost it and anchor it with a pawn to the point where it must be taken by a bishop, because it is stronger than a bishop if it's outposted on the fifth rank. I'm not talking about d5 or g5. I'm talking about a knight in the center. And we also know the famous Lasker game. So if we know that a knight on the fifth rank is worth more than a bishop, if it's outposted and anchored by a pawn and cannot be driven away by a pawn, it's definitely worth more than a bishop, like in the Sveshnikov and the knight d5 lines. The bishop has to take it sooner or later. And a knight on the sixth rank, we all know, if it can be outposted by a pawn and anchored and obviously not driven away by pawns, then it could be worth and cause a lot of great discomfort to a rook trying to find an open file. So knight worth a knight, knight worth a bishop, knight worth more than a bishop, knight worth closer to a rook if it is outposted on any of these squares. So you can make up for the bishop pair by outposting your knight on incrementally better squares as black. So yes, going back to the situation where we had to take, should these pawns move forward, this knight needs to be able to outpost itself.
Said, suggest you make a video about this.
Thank you so much, Ron. Absolutely. It is a lot like Arkell's valuation, increasing or gradient valuation of the pawns. Even though I've mentioned that the center pawns are worth a little bit more than the side pawns at the beginning of the game, the center pawns are worth that much more than the flank pawns by the difference in the value of the bishop and the knight, the ethereal value of the bishop and the knight. And because of that, you have to be very, very mindful about getting run over by the opponent's pieces. In this position, I have to comment, Ron is not using his rooks, okay? It is at this moment in time when we've placed our minor pieces that you can obviously see that Ron is going to leave his rooks behind. Either rook e1, rook b1, or c1, anything along those lines is ideal. But you can see that when this knight arrives on b5, if this bishop's not protected, it could be a pain in the tuchus. I think Ron played bishop to b4 in order to alleviate the pin so that he might be able to play knight to b5, but he's slowed down just a little bit. And actually, he's going for it so far. He's pushing for the space. Now, we have 2 pawns on the fifth rank, right? 2 passed pawns on the fifth rank. Remember, the 2 connected passed pawns on the sixth rank equal a luck. So strong. The 2 passed pawns connected on the fifth rank are certainly trouble. I'm not going to try to put an evaluation on them. But again, black is not playing with his rooks. You have to use your rooks every single game. You can't play a game without your rooks. Not sure what this was meant to attack. And already the knight has reached the next rank, and the bishop must take it. This pawn is much greater a pain. Ron is very pesky, and this rook should still be in the game. It's crazy to me that this is still happening. But as it turns out, his opponent got his rooks out, and everything is hanging, unfortunately. C'est la vie. But I don't know that we have enough viewers to raid Chess 24 and watch the action. I can only hope that we do. I'm not going to raid with more or less than 3 viewers. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Cheers and ciao. I hope you've learned something. I certainly have, about myself and Ron kicking my tuchus. 900 games. He's kicked my tuchus over and over again. Have a super great day, everybody. Cheers and ciao.